We don't have an account for shabby poor folks. When I went to the bank in tattered clothes, I felt looked down upon by a bank employee named Lisa Miller, who seemed to have been recently transferred. She seemed to be an elite who was recently assigned to this bank. Has she not been informed about anything? Despite my efforts to inquire multiple times afterward, I was turned away at the door. I decided enough was enough and announced, "I'm gonna close a corporate account worth $6 billion. Upon hearing this, Jane Smith, a seasoned bank employee, approached me with a mix of surprise and curiosity to understand why. After that, the recently appointed Lisa Miller lost everything. My name is Aiden Parker, 35 years old. I'm currently working as an independent engineer. Before going freelance, I worked for an IT company, but I decided to go independent and resigned. Since then, I've struggled to make ends meet but eventually started making a decent income. There have been hardships along the way, but I have no regrets. I'm now happily living and working in my home office, able to work whenever and as much as I like. However, I had an unfortunate experience just a few days ago at a bank. I had to withdraw some money from the bank that day. Since it was the end of the month, I had bills to pay. Visiting the bank after such a long time always felt intimidating. The silence inside the bank always made me uneasy. As I waited, my turn finally came. "Excuse me, I'd like to withdraw some money." The bank employee who assisted me was quite flashy for a banker. Her makeup was noticeably elaborate. I thought to myself, I could never put in that much effort daily, and I felt a little intimidated. I just wanted to finish my business and head home as soon as possible. However, things didn't go as planned. "You wish to withdraw money? Excuse me, but do you really have an account with this bank?" "Pardon me? What do you mean?" "Well, I thought you came to borrow money or something. I mean, given the way you look, you know?" I wondered if this woman, who was staring intently at me, even knew what the word rude meant. A quick glance at her name tag revealed the name Lisa Miller. I corrected Lisa, reiterating that I was there to withdraw money. "You can use an ATM if you want to withdraw, you know?" No, What? I can't understand what you're trying to say. Can you speak up?" Lisa's condescending attitude made me feel uncomfortable. I'd like to. Sorry, but it's a waste of time talking to you. If you can speak more clearly, maybe come back another time?" Lisa shooed me away as if I was an annoyance. Feeling utterly disheartened, I left my seat without another word. Being looked down upon without a proper conversation left me bewildered, but I hoped that on another day, someone else might assist me. That day, I went home feeling downcast. I tried to get some work done but couldn't focus and ended up calling it a day. On another day, I visited the bank again, intending to withdraw money. About a week had passed since the last incident. I had postponed the visit due to my previous experience. But I figured I wouldn't run into Lisa again. However, as luck would have it, while I was seated waiting for my turn, I saw Lisa walking across the bank floor. "Huh? You're back again? You never learn, do you? Just having someone as down on their luck looking as you here lowers the reputation of this bank, you know?" Hello. I need to make a withdrawal too, you see. How much are you planning to withdraw? Probably just chump change, right?" Lisa looked down on me just like the last time. There was no need to tell her the amount, but feeling overwhelmed, I answered honestly. "About $15,000. $15,000? Why would someone like you need that kind of money? Are you in debt or something? Paying it back? I bet it's probably your parents' money. You know, being disrespectful to your parents like that can bring bad karma." Lisa made wild assumptions about me. While it was tedious to deny it, I didn't want to let it slide either, so I simply emphasized it was my money. Still, she looked at me with skepticism, making me wonder if standing up for myself even mattered. I mean, Lisa says I look poor, but I'm not actually struggling financially. Do I really look that pitiful? Although, I'm not particularly fashionable, and with my light makeup, I don't have the same aura as Lisa, so maybe she has a point? Talking to her makes me feel really insecure. Just when I thought of leaving, it was my turn. "Aiden? Oh, Mrs. Smith. I apologize, I'll be right there." I gave a nod to Lisa and quickly went over to Mrs. Jennifer Smith. Mrs. Smith is a veteran bank clerk who always assists me. She's gentle and treats everyone with kindness, never showing a bad attitude. I always felt at ease with her, so I had a fond impression of her. But to my surprise, Lisa said this to Mrs. Smith. "Mrs. Smith, you don't need to deal with people like this. She says she wants to withdraw $15,000, but who knows if she really has that much." Visibly angered by Lisa's audacity, Mrs. Smith reprimanded her. "What kind of attitude is that, Lisa? Haven't we always said this? Disrespecting clients like this affects the bank's reputation. Stop it." Yeah, my apologies. Well, I'll be off then." But ignoring Mrs. Smith's warning, Lisa just sauntered off. Mrs. Smith let out a heavy sigh after watching her leave. "I'm truly sorry about that. She was recently transferred here and has been problematic. I've heard she was considered a rising star at her previous bank, had some trust there, too." Mrs. Smith apologized with a troubled look. From her words, it seemed Lisa was quite the problematic character. "Seems I had the bad luck of running into her. She seems to treat others decently, but I guess she's taken a weird dislike to you. I'm sorry you've had to experience this. I'll make sure to keep an eye on her from now on." "Thank you." Mrs. Smith's words made me feel somewhat comforted. But later, another unpleasant incident occurred. However, this event would drastically change the situation. "Whoa! What's with the shabby look? Wait, it's you, Aiden. Back again? And dressed like that?" Lisa squinted at me. I think I made a face of distaste seeing her. I hadn't slept all night. And was wearing my usual old clothes to the bank. I was able to withdraw money last time thanks to Mrs. Smith, but today, I was here to confirm a transfer. I had a pretty big deal going on. But Lisa was once again in my way. And I hadn't even entered the bank yet. I encountered Lisa in the bank's parking lot. Being sleep-deprived, the last thing I wanted was to deal with someone as mentally draining as her. But she didn't seem to care about my situation. "Coming here dressed like that, hoping for a handout? It's so naive and frankly, disgusting. Mrs. Smith is too nice, allowing poor folks like you to loiter around our bank. I'll be heading home soon." "What does that have to do with anything? If someone like you, who looks poor, comes inside, our customers might get suspicious and be uncomfortable. So, leave now." Lisa smirked and smoothly said those words. I was just planning to make a quick entry in my passbook today. It shouldn't have taken much time, but just because Lisa is here, I feel hesitant. Every time I come to the bank, why do I get involved in such annoying situations? It's so depressing. "I just came to update my passbook, is that okay?" As I tried to walk past Lisa, she turned to me and said, "We don't have accounts for dirty poor folks like you." I was utterly disgusted hearing Lisa's words and decided not to engage with her anymore. "I understand." Hearing me, Lisa laughed smugly and said, "You're surprisingly obedient. Were you just pretending to be rich? Maybe getting help from Mrs. Smith? You were probably here to borrow money, huh? It's embarrassing for an adult not to earn decently." I thought, she can say whatever she wants. There's no point in talking to her. Feeling defeated, Lisa looked at me with a bored expression. "Aren't you gonna say anything back? Or did I hit the nail on the head?" "No, I just think it's pointless talking to you." "Oh, really? Not being able to talk back just makes you even more pitiful." Lisa's mocking attitude was making me feel worse. I felt pathetic for not having a comeback. But I felt like anything I'd say would just give her more ammo. "You seem to be mistaken. I'm not poor as you claim. I'm self-employed and work as a freelance engineer. I've never felt pathetic about myself. I'm content with my life. Is that an excuse? Poor people have to put on a brave face, otherwise, they'd feel miserable. I told you, I'm not poor." Seeing me get frustrated, Lisa narrowed her eyes and smiled triumphantly. She probably just wanted to belittle and mock someone. What a pathetic person. Even if she's wealthy, I'd rather be poor than become like her. I'm an elite. I live a luxurious life you can't even imagine. My parents are proud of me, and this bank trusts me. It's like day and night. You must be jealous? Not really, I feel sorry for you. What's the point of showing off? That's why you're ridiculed. You're probably looked down upon wherever you go. Serves you right. Lisa said loudly, followed by a loud laugh. One day, I'm gonna be the head of this bank. When I do, I'll be on the winning side. I'll be earning $600,000 a year. You, a poor person, probably can't comprehend that amount. But that's okay. It's an amount you'll never see in your lifetime. Lisa puffed out her chest with a provoking smile. All I could think was how ambitious she was. She then walked back into the bank. She probably felt relieved after saying all she wanted. On the other hand, I was filled with annoyance. Wishing to give her a piece of my mind, I shouted loudly. I'm gonna close a corporate account worth $6 billion. Huh? I've made up my mind. I can't trust a bank with someone like you working here. Lisa looked dumbfounded. But a few seconds later, she laughed. Is that a joke? Let her laugh for now. I was beyond frustrated with Lisa. I was downright flabbergasted. How could someone belittle another person like that? What kind of life must she have lived to end up this way? I left without offering any more explanation. I can't trust this bank anymore. That's what I thought, and I immediately took action. Hey! What the heck is going on? The next day, a call came to my cell phone. It was an unfamiliar number, but with some suspicion, I answered it. To my surprise, it was Lisa's voice on the other end. She sounded flustered, trying to explain something but stumbling over her words. I asked her how she knew my number, and she said she'd looked up my personal information. Is she even allowed to do that? When I asked what was so important that she had to call me, Lisa hesitated for a moment before launching into a clumsy explanation. You've got an account with $6 billion? Those words came through loud and clear. I asked her what the big deal was about that. Lisa then detailed the events that took place at the bank the previous day. Apparently, after our encounter, Mrs. Smith had called her in and gave her a serious scolding. She was told her attitude towards me was unacceptable and that it's not okay to treat people like that. But initially, Lisa didn't take it seriously. She thought it was only natural for someone looking like me to be treated that way. If I wanted better treatment, I should dress and act more appropriately. But then Mrs. Smith sternly informed her. You seem to have misunderstood something. She might say she's a freelance engineer, but she has a corporate account worth $600 million. What? No way! It's true. You judge people too much by their appearance. And how could you not recognize such an important client? Because of your careless actions, Aiden said she's gonna close her account. That's a big loss for us. How are you gonna take responsibility for this? Faced with Mrs. Smith's intense rebuke, Lisa became frantic. Afraid of damaging her reputation, Lisa tried to negotiate, promising to win back the account and asking for another chance. That's why I'm asking you to reconsider and keep your account with us. Please! I promise I'll never treat you like that again. I was pretty fed up with Lisa's behavior. Why should I help Lisa after being treated so poorly by her? Just because you're asking now doesn't mean I owe you anything. I'm gonna contract with another bank, so maybe you should take responsibility for your actions. When I said that, Lisa called me cruel and the worst, but I thought she was way more out of line. From our first meeting, she judged and looked down on me, and constantly insulted me. I naturally don't want anything to do with her anymore. Just when I was about to hang up, exasperated, Lisa pleaded for one last chance and asked me to come to the bank. I decided to go to the bank to settle things with Lisa. Instead of leaving things unresolved and feeling unsatisfied, I wanted to have a clear conversation and put an end to this issue. Thank you. I'm sorry for my previous rude behavior. When I arrived at the bank, Lisa immediately rushed over and escorted me to a seat. Seeing Lisa now acting all subservient and fawning was not a pleasant sight. I just came here to settle things with you. My decision to close the account remains unchanged. When I told Lisa that, she kept apologizing profusely, sweat pouring down her face. But her apologies didn't sound sincere. She probably didn't even understand what she was apologizing for. It seemed like she was just trying to protect herself, going through the motions of apologizing. Feeling her insincerity, I couldn't help but make a bitter face. I'm truly sorry. If you reconsider and stay with us, we'll prioritize you over other clients, and I'll let you know immediately if there are any special deals. And of course, we won't take any time to reset your account. No, that won't be necessary. Your apology doesn't sound heartfelt. If you're truly remorseful, you'd know why things turned out this way, right? And you think you can still convince me after all that? When I said that, Lisa just groaned. I made it clear that I wouldn't change my mind no matter what, but Lisa still didn't acknowledge her fault. On the contrary, she became defensive, implying that it was all my fault in the end. In the first place, if you had dressed more appropriately, this wouldn't have happened, you know? How about putting a little more effort into your appearance? It's downright rude to show up in public dressed like that. I get what Lisa is trying to say, but there's no justification for those comments. It's rude to criticize someone just because they wear slightly outdated or cheaper clothes. If anything, Lisa is the rude one here. After all, in this bank, there aren't any folks flaunting designer brands. Everyone is just wearing regular clothes, waiting their turn, and doing what they need to do. Lisa probably targeted me because she could sense my timidity. I've always been passive and not good at speaking up, but that's no reason to look down on someone for trivial reasons. Moreover, unless I've troubled Lisa first, I don't recall doing anything so terrible to warrant such harsh words from her. Just because I teased you a bit doesn't mean you have to take it this far. You just want to drag me down, right? No, that's not it. I can't stand your unreasonable behavior. If every time I come to the bank you harass me, it's intolerable. So, I thought about changing banks. You have no reason to criticize me. Well, you should have said that from the start. If I'd known you had an account with a lot of money, I wouldn't have acted this way. Lisa got too desperate and started digging her own grave. She was making a scene and the people around started to murmur. Someone must have reported the commotion to the bank staff, because Mrs. Smith and a security guard came rushing over. Lisa! What on earth are you doing? Mrs. Smith. I was just suggesting to Aiden to reconsider, that's all. With Mrs. Smith's arrival, Lisa looked rather evasive. Seeing Lisa's demeanor, Mrs. Smith probably realized this wasn't a friendly chat and shot her a stern look. Enough is enough. What were you really saying? Were you belittling Aiden again? To call someone out just to berate them is beyond ridiculous. And you're supposed to be an elite from the headquarters? It was unusual for Mrs. Smith to raise her voice like this against Lisa. According to Mrs. Smith, Lisa's attitude is something she can't overlook as Lisa's superior. Seeing Mrs. Smith's anger, Lisa looked visibly shaken. She probably hasn't been yelled at like this before. A flustered Lisa was sharply rebuked by Mrs. Smith. If you cause any more trouble, I'll have the security take you out. Your behavior is problematic, and I will report this to the headquarters. If they realize someone like you is ruining the bank's reputation, they'll have to act. No way! I've been working hard to become a branch manager someday. If this gets out, it'll tarnish my record. If someone like you becomes a branch manager, the bank will surely go under. Start realizing your situation and act responsibly. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes as she looked at me. Aiden. Say something. It's your fault my life is messed up. Watching Lisa wiping away her tears and glaring at me. It's clear there's no helping her. It's the result of your actions. Maybe it's about time you accept and reflect on it. I replied coldly and headed towards the bank's exit. Lisa tried to stop me till the very end, but fearing she might become violent, the security guard restrained her and took her away. What a troublesome person. I didn't want to get involved any further, so I quickly got into my car and drove to another bank. I'll open a new business account there and start afresh. I was thinking about that while driving my car. Later on, I heard Lisa got fired at a corporate meeting. Apparently, there had been issues with Lisa's behavior for a while. She had a condescending attitude towards her subordinates and juniors, and it seems she got caught taking credit for their work. Lisa tried to fight back and somehow avoid getting fired, but it seems no one was fooled by her shallow lies. Even after being kicked out of the bank, Lisa couldn't let go of her high standard of living and even went into debt to keep up appearances. However, her debts became unmanageable, and when traditional banks wouldn't lend her money, she began borrowing from shady sources. It seems she can't lead a peaceful life anymore. I don't know where Lisa is now, but there were rumors that she fled in the night. I heard this story from Mrs. Smith. It's just a hearsay, but I couldn't help thinking that it's something Lisa might do. As for me, I'm still working as a freelance engineer. I've secured some major contracts and now have a stable income. I think it's fair to say I'm doing quite well. I've grown my business, and I'm not running the company alone anymore. I work together with a few team members, dividing up tasks. But I don't act high and mighty like Lisa, I live within my means.